It has always been that way with my father. I've been able to hear when I was president, and I had a terribly difficult decision to make, and did not know what to do. I had only to think, what would my father do? And I can hear his voice, just as I can hear the sound of his heels on the floor. He taught me, I believe, all the really great lessons of life before I was 10 years of age. And the greatest of all of these is this: there is not one among us who does not at some time need a hand to be reached out to him. And therefore shame on us, shame indeed, if we are not willing to reach out our hand to our brother in his hour of need. He was the best man I ever knew. Here I am, in all of my cowboy splendor, with my horse and my hat and my chaperos and my pistols and my lariat, and I don't know if you can see them from where you are seated, my spectacles. It was because of my spectacles that I was obliged to endure all of the usual nicknames with which I'm sure you are familiar. Four Eyes, Storm Windows, etc., etc. Yes, there we are. My friend here agrees entirely. Yes, although I must tell you, my friends, that my real nickname in the Dakota Territory came about in an entirely different way. One day, we were chasing some cattle. It was the springtime, we were bringing in the yearlings for branding. We had corralled them all, and they suddenly spooked. They burst loose out of the corral and went racing away. And my two men, the two men who worked for me, got on their horses to go after them, but they were going rather slowly. And I felt terrified that I saw all of my profits, you see, disappearing over the crest of the hill. So I stood up. I was on horseback myself at the time, and I stood up and I yelled to my men as loudly as I could yell, "You men! Hasten forward quickly there!" Yes, that was their reaction. One man fell entirely off his horse. He thought it was so funny. And I never lived it down. Years later, when I had become a hero in the Cuban War, the whole world called me Colonel. Or years after that, when I was president, the whole world called me Mr. President. Very respectful, you know. But I would go back and visit my friends in the Dakota Territory, and they would always say, "Well, here comes old Hazen Forward quick." I never lived it down. Never. But I learned things there. I learned things about the American character and about my own character. I will give you two examples. When I was president, a group of wealthy men came to the White House, and they requested my assistance. They had a plan. They had a plan, you see, to improve the Grand Canyon. I am not making that up. It is a thing, like Hyacinth Valentine, that a man could not make up. It developed, however, that their idea of improvement meant that they wished to build a railroad in the Grand Canyon, that they wished to build hotels in the Grand Canyon, and that they wished to put advertisements, billboards, on the walls of the Grand Canyon. Eat Campbell's soup! I will yield to no one in my admiration for Campbell's soup, a fine American company. But I will not have billboards on the walls of the Grand Canyon. I told these men that this was an abomination and that they were abominators and that I would not allow this, that I would transform the whole place into a national park before I would allow this to happen. They said, "You can't do that. There's no law that gives you the right to create, simply by declaration, a national park." I said, "There is a law, the Newlands Reclamation Act of 1902, that allows me to create a presidential bird sanctuary. Is there not?" They said, "Well, yes, there is." I said, "I hereby declare that the floor of the Grand Canyon is a presidential bird sanctuary." I said, "There is a law, the Antiquities Act of 1907, which will allow me to declare a presidential monument. Is there not?" They said, "Well, I suppose that." I said, "I hereby declare the walls of the Grand Canyon a presidential monument." Next case. You do what you can with what you've got, where you are. The best. bit of legal legerdemain, there would now be billboards on the walls of the Grand Canyon. So I hope you will permit me to presume upon the privilege of my age, and in the 1 minute that I have left to speak to you, preach to you just a little about the future. For my friends, I am gone. My entire generation is gone. If you wish to meet me, you must read a history book. And you, my friends, you are the generation of the here and the now. But there is the future, your children, and their children, and their children, and theirs. Therefore, go to your children and tell them this for me. Love life, do your duty,